So what we have done is we have just gone ahead with what is digital communication and why is it needed. So first thing what we have understood is that in the last semester you have studied about analog communication, where you have seen that you are using modulation techniques because a signal cannot go for a longer distance. Now for modulation techniques, what you have seen, you have taken a very high frequency and on that you are superimposing lower frequencies and you are sending it for transmission. Now you have used different ways, like you have, when you are changing the amplitude of your high frequency, that is carrier, with respect to information signal, we called it as a amplitude modulation. When you are varying the frequency of a carrier with respect to the input signal, you called it as frequency modulation. Now here, when you go ahead with digital modulation, few things what we need is, the step one is we need to convert these analog signals into digital signals. So initial part of your unit is talking about that, how to convert a analog signal into a digital signal. Now here, when we are talking about this, you have seen, this is what we discussed just now. We have gone ahead with amplitude modulation. We have seen frequency modulation that was related to the analog or continuous waves. When you talk about digital modulation, you are talking about pulses. Now, how these pulses are being created? These pulses are created with the help of sampling. Now, how this sampling is done? Sampling is done at successive sample points. Now, how these successive sample points have been decided? That is decided basis on what is a bandwidth required or is taken by the your original information signal. Now, based on that original information signal, what you have done, you have sampled your signal. Remember, it should be always be greater than twice of your B, that is a bandwidth, or I should say equal to or greater than twice of B. And this is all this has been found out by the Nyquist. So it has been called as Nyquist criteria. Now, if you say Nyquist criteria, it's necessary that frequency of sampling means at what intervals the sampling should be done. That is been decided by the Nyquist criteria, and it should always be greater than or equal to twice of your bandwidth of the information signal. If you talk about rate, ideally, if you talk about, it should be equal to, but practically what we say, it should be greater than or equal to twice of p. Now, where are these after sampling? How is it helping us for the transmission? It is helping us as transmitter end, where we are converting our analog signal into digital signals with different mechanisms. One of them is we call them as analog to digital modulation, and at receiver end we are converting that received digital signals in back to the original signal, that is analog signal, and the entire process is called as digital to analog modulation. Now, in different semester, different methods you have seen to convert analog to digital and digital to analog. Depending upon what quantity of signal you are converting, many the mechanism is being used. But the process is A to D and D to A. At the transmitter and at the receiver end, we need it. Now, how is it helping us? At the analog signal, that is at the input part, whatever signal you have got, how you are doing it? First, you are sampling it. After sample, if you see, we call it as analog to digital conversions. Now, here what you are doing, then you are, whatever the voltage you have got it, if you see this particular diagram here, this is say one voltage, this is another voltage, this is third voltage, we give a level to it, that is we give a voltage to it and we call it as a pulse. Then we get a pulse. So when the analog signal with the help of sampling becomes a digital signal, we call it as a pulse signal. Now this further, after being sent for the transmission, when received at the receiver end, is the tip of each is been picked up and then the wave is been reconstructed. So with this picture, it's very clear that as small the graph will be, that good the reconstruction of signal will be. So that is the entire process which is needed. So here we are using different techniques to convert analog signals into digital signals. One is pulse amplitude modulation, that we are calling it as PAM. That is, the pulses amplitude will be modulated with respect to the analog signal. Okay, remember, we are only converting, we are only sampling our analog signal. So all these techniques, all this picture that you are seeing is basically we are converting analog signal into pulses. Okay, right now we are not using it for transmission. This is all happening at the transmitter end. We are just sampling our signals, analog signals, and using it for the various ways. So we are depending upon the application. We are just either taking its amplitude or we are taking converting into width. That's it. Now here PDM is basically pulse duration modulation. It is also known as pulse width modulation, that is PWM. Now here if you see wherever we have done the sampling, that sampling till particular period of time, we are converting that into a width. It is just like frequency modulation. So at every particular sampling, you will find a particular width is there. As the amplitude is rising in the original signal, the width of this pulse is also varying. When it is minimum, you can see the width is less. Now this pulse position modulation is basically is always with respect to PDM or PWM. That means the starting of this pulse is considered as first position, ending of that pulse is considered as second position, starting of the second pulse is considered as third position, ending of second pulse is taken as fourth position. Like this, you can just, the position of starting and ending can be only used to define pulse position modulation. Fine. This is what is how the analog signal is getting converted into digital. PCM, again, we will come back to this point. Now here, in pulse amplitude modulation, what we have done, same thing I will be repeating. We have just given a sampling, and how we have done the sampling, how the sampling will be done. We have just now seen that sampling should be done with successive sample points. Now, how are we going to sample it? For that, we will be going ahead with on and off. On means when the signal is, or I should say the power is going, off means when nothing is happening. So we, after deciding what should be the sampling rate, we have made a pulse train. Now this pulse train is only about 0 and 1. Now, when the pulse train and when this analog signal passes through pulse train naturally, when the signal is, when the pulse says 1, your signal will be transferred. When the pulse says 0, your signal is not getting transferred. Again, when pulse says 1, your analog signal is getting transferred. When the pulse train says 0, your signal is not being transferred. So naturally, what happens, this analog signal with the help of this pulse train has got converted into the PAM, that is pulse amplitude modulation, where the amplitude is varying with respect to the original signal, and the width of that particular pulse, when it will be there and it won't be there, is decided by this particular pulse train. Okay. Then we have pulse width modulation or pulse duration modulation. Here, as we have seen earlier, what we have done, the width is getting varied with respect to the sampling point or with respect to the amplitude of that sampling point. Now here, depending upon what width are we picking up, the entire further process of conversion will be affected. Now here, if you take the duty cycle as 20%, now you know what is duty cycle. Duty cycle is basically T on plus T off. Now T on here is basically the on part is smaller and off part is bigger. So we are calling it as 20% of duty cycle. So whenever we talk about duty cycle, we always preferably talk about the on part. So we are calling 20% of the duty cycle is being used for staying on. Here, if you look at the second row, you will find when it is 40% of duty cycle is turned on, you will find that the pulse width has little bit increased. Now, if the 80% of duty cycle, that means 80% of the duty cycle is on, then you can see the pulse width is still more. And if it goes to 100%, the entire width of that duty cycle is been used by the on part. So that is how, depending upon whatever is the input or what you want to transmit, which part of it you have to emphasize, automatically the width can be varied, and this is how the pulse train is been decided, so that the duty cycle is being planned accordingly depending upon the output you want to have it. Okay. Again, this is used to convert analog signal into digital signal. So you can see both digital signals that we have received are very different. One is having a fixed duty cycle, but the amplitude is varying. We call it as PAM. And for pulse PWM or PDM, the amplitude is fixed, but the width is varying, just like amplitude and frequency modulation. Now, why do we need this? We know that first thing what we have to do in this entire digital communication system is to convert analog signal into digital signal, and then the transmission will start. So what we have seen earlier was only at the transmitter end. Now here this digital source what we are seeing is what we have received after PAM, PWM and PPM. Now whatever we have received from here will further be used for the transmission. So in before transmission, what all things we need to do? We need to put some code. Now here you can see PCM is there, that says pulse code modulation. Pulse code modulation means whatever information you have gathered with PAM or PDM or PPM is converted in terms of ones and zeros. So say when the amplitude is rising, you are calling it as 1111. If the amplitude is falling, you are calling it as 00. So here that is being done at the source encoder, where automatically we get the idea of rising and falling of the information, or the information is been represented with respect to some code. Now, after doing that, as also last time we have discussed, we have converted in with the help of PCM, that is pulse code modulation. We have converted our digital signal into pulses. Now we need to put the address where it has to be sent. That is done by the source encoder. Through which channel we are sending, that code has to be added, and then it goes to modulator, and after that various modulation techniques are used to send. Now here the channel can be satellite communication, it can be optical fiber, it can be any form where the signal can be passed. Okay, now at the receiver end, what is happening? Whatever signal that is being received, that mostly contains noise. Now, this noise can be added because of equipments that are being used, also because of natural atmosphere from through the from where the transmission has happened. Now, if you take the example of copper wires, we know if the long wires are there, naturally inductance, resistance, capacitance develop. That adds to some voltage that we can call as noise. If you are sending through optical fiber, in that time, if there is any impurity present in the optical fiber, there the diffraction will happen. That will lead to some change in the voltage that leads to a noise. If you are sending through satellite communication, it can be because of long distance, because of other cosmic reasons, the some voltage may get added. If you are going through ground waves, there are a lot of other objects that can absorb energy, that can reduce the strength of a signal. There are many reasons why the noise gets added into it. So it's not possible that without noise, addition of noise, you can receive it at the receiver. So step one is when we know that we have received some noise with the which has got added into the information, naturally at the demodulator part, first thing what we have to do is to remove the noise. After we have removed the noise, then you will be tracing out the from which channel what information have got, and that at source decoder you will be separating that information to that respective users. So this is how, and the user point, now it's choice of the user, they want to use the digital data or they want to convert it into analog. For this entire process, we call it as digital communication system. So when we are converting in analog into digital, we have used these three techniques: PAM, PDM and PPM. Then for source encoder, to just uplift the value of or the data that we have received, we are converting into codes with the help of PCM. Then further process, we know we have just discussed. Now we will go step by step in each step in block diagram, and we will move on. Okay, now here we will talk about the noise that got added into the channel. Now, what happens when the noise gets added to the signal? The original quality of the signal gets disrupted. So, for that, it's necessary at the demodulator part, we need to have the equipments that will reduce the noise. Now, these noise will affect differently for analog signals and the digital signals. If you see analog signals, it's directly attacking at the analog signal. So entire the signal becomes noisy. Whereas the advantage that we have with digital signals, again, it attacks only the amplitude. So what happens? The pulse is not much affected as compared to analog signals, because we know if we have used PAM, yes, noise will affect at the amplitude. If we has PWM and the noise affects at the amplitude, we know we can easily filter it out, because we have not sent data in amplitude way. We have sent data in width ways. So naturally, it becomes easy to identify the noise and separate it. Now, how it affects, if you go with analog, see if you can see that the blue part is actually the noise, then it directly affects the entire bandwidth gets affected. But if it is at the this part, digital part, you will find the clarity is more and it becomes easy for us to remove the noise, because as we took the example, it is either the position waves or it's a width waves, right? Even if it's amplitude way, it's in the pulse. So every pulse is having a fixed amplitude. Now, how will the received person know that what is been sent is noised or noiseless? Because it will always be compared. It is always with respect to what is been sent. So what is sent and what is received is always compared. With that, we get an idea that, okay, the noise has been added to it. Now here signal to noise ratio is very important factor whenever we talk about these signals and communication, because basically what we want is that the information that we receive should be noiseless or noise free or minimum noise. So if you use high SNR, what will happen? The amplitude, if you will see, the signal is stronger than the noise. The effect of noise can be extracted out. But if SNR is low or signal to noise ratio is low, the signal and noise merges with each other and extraction of signal becomes very difficult. Now here, when we are finding out, when we are doing this sampling part, that time, depending upon from which atmosphere we are going to send, say flood is there and a person is talking on phone, naturally so much of water and storm, that all sound will be coming on. So in that case, it is a noisy background and you are going to extract a signal from the noisy background. Sampling will be different. If you are at a peaceful place, hardly any noise is there, the sampling will be different. So depending upon where, at which location you are sending or you're receiving the data, seeing all those factors, this sampling keeps varying continuously. Okay, so here they have shown in the diagram that when this sampling has been done for a signal, then the digital output has been created. That's what we said. The pulse has been created exactly the point where the sampling is done. You can see here, this is a sample point. And here from this point to another point, we are fixing the voltage. So that voltage will be the pulse. So at each part, now here you can see the wave is falling down, but the pulse is fixed. So that is how the signal is also being extracted depending upon the sampling rate we are been picking up. It's necessary that sampling rate should be purely based on at which background the data is being sent and which frequency should be used. All these factors are necessary to get a reconstruction of a data. Now next, when we are talking about this, we saw that at each point we have given a voltage, right? Now you can see after doing the sample, at each point where the amplitude of signal was there, we have converted into pulse. Now we represent that entire signal with the help of voltage levels. And we call this process as quantization. So we have seen that when you are doing the vertical sampling with respect to time, we call it as a sampling process. When you are doing horizontally, like we have done horizontally, this is the point where the sampling was done. It shows 5 voltage, 6.25 voltage. So blue line is basically your original signal, whereas this red line is showing the digital format. Now you can see here, if the signal is greater than say 0.5, we round up to make it 1. Now here you can see at this particular point, here some part of signal is less than 7.5 and some part is greater than 7.5. Now depending upon the position from where the quantization has happened, we have fixed that entire less than 7.5 and greater than 7.5 as 7.5, right? So we have given particular voltage to uh, uh, each no, so I should say each step we have given to each voltage. So that is how the quantization is been done. So what we are doing in simple quantization, to make it very simple, you are just giving a voltage level to wherever the sampling has been happened. Okay, and we call it as a quantization. Now this quantization play a very important role when you are reconstructing it. If the quantization is done with small levels, then error that we get during the reconstruction is more. If the quantization done is at higher level, like we have done it here, then the reconstruction is better and it's quite closer to what is the original. That's the reason quantization levels, if it is increased, that means the graph at which we are drawing that entire image is smaller, then reconstruction is quite close to the original. So advantage of quantization, what we have, you can see here, when you are converting into codes with the help of pulse code modulation. This pulse code modulation is done on the basis of amplitude levels that we have got. So sampling has already played his role. How sampling has played role? Sampling has given a voltage to each amplitude. You can see here, sampling has given already a voltage to the entire image or entire signal. And what has happened to it? That particular point we are giving a voltage level. So now here, as much as horizontal lines you will give or as much voltage you will put in between, the generation of code becomes easy and reconstruction of signal becomes better. Now here they have taken first example is when the quantization is less. Now the same picture that we are having, say it is from 0 to 5 volts only, we are saying that. So 0 to 2.5, 2.5 is the midline. So that 0 to 2.5 is represented as, the minimum is shown as 0, 0, then 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. Now same 0 to 5 volts, when you have increased the quantization level or you have added more voltages to it, that means you have subdivided it more, like 0 to 2.5 was the first part where 2.5 was showing 0. Then what was happening? Here, between 0 to 2.5, we have made it as 0.5, then 1, then 1.5, then 2, and then 2.5. Naturally, the voltage level in between 0 to 5 has increased a lot. So when you convert it into codes, the number of codes also has been increased. Here it was only 4. Here we are having 8. Now, if you increase furthermore, what will happen? See, you can see the same 0, which was the minimum, is in 4 bits, and same 5 is it with 4 bits. So you can see the subdivision between 0 to 5 has increased a lot. So naturally, the level of quantization has increased, number of voltages has increased, reconstruction will be better. Got it? Is this part clear till now, whatever we have discussed? Do you want me to repeat?